you know how much I respect you, but let's be honest here.
I don't need to be corrected, and I don't need to be told I'm dishonest, Karen. But by all means, go ahead.
I didn't say it. I said let's be honest with the American people here.
I am.
Well,
you ought to try
CR that I'm doing it right now, brother.
Scott Jennings showed up on Caitlin Collins' program, pushing the same tired mega talking points about the government shutdown, a shutdown Republicans could end whenever they choose. Instead, figures like Jennings and Speaker Mike Johnson keep trying to pin the blame on Democrats. We're going to walk through the CNN exchange between Jennings and Karen Finney on Collins' show, and I'll give you my take as we go. Let's watch it together.
House is arguing today.
Well, the president did try to bring them into the room the other day, and they wouldn't budge. I mean, look, the facts here are pretty simple. The Republican Party has put on the floor and voted for a clean, continuing resolution, no changes. These are Biden budget numbers, by the way, and numbers that Democrats have voted for 13 times. Nothing up our sleeves here, Caitlin. They're trying to keep the government open long enough to negotiate things like the health care issue, which you were just debating, which I actually think maybe Republicans will wind up dealing on that. But they're not going to do it under duress, and they're not going to do it under threat of rolling back all the Medicaid reforms that were done this summer. So I think President Trump tried to bring the Democrats in. And at the end of the day, I think the American people know here they're looking at two parties. One's trying to do a bunch of funny business. One's trying to keep the doors open. And right now, I don't think the funny business side is winning in the eyes of the American people.
Karen, what's your view on that?
Well, I just want to correct something. You know, Scott, you know how much I respect you, but let's be honest here.
I don't need to be corrected, and I don't need to be told I'm dishonest, Karen. But by all means, go ahead.
I didn't say it. I said let's be honest with the American people here.
I am.
You ought to try CR that I'm doing it right now, brother. So the CR is that the Republicans have proposed is actually not clean. It's pretty dirty because it includes the $1 trillion in Medicaid cuts that the American people themselves have made clear they do not like. So it is not the same. I think it'd be a very different moment and conversation if literally we were talking about what was passed in 2024. That is not the actual fact of the case. The fact of the case is that the measure is something that, again, the American people themselves have said they do not like. The other piece of this is, I think Democrats have a clear, concise message in terms of health care. Think about this. Republicans are on the side of saying we have to protect these tax cuts for billionaires. That's going to impact the wealthiest 1%. Democrats are saying we want to protect health care for over 20 million American families. And I agree with what, I was glad Senator Smith pointed out. I also just got my email today about my health care and choosing a plan. So people are already seeing that their costs are going to go up starting in January 2026. So I think Democrats feel pretty strong about this because the politics have changed. And, the last thing I would just say on this, my first government shutdown, Scott, I know you've been through a few of them too, was in the Clinton administration. And the kind of backslapping, oh, we're just joking that we heard from the vice president today. Well, we heard that from Newt Gingrich, and he was, bracing for the fight. And we all know how that worked out. I don't think the American people like seeing the president make light of their health care or their jobs.
Scott, you want to respond?
Yeah, sure. Look, we're stunned. I'll just be honest with you. We're stunned. The Democratic constituencies are principally immigration populations and government workers. And right now,
I'm a Democrat, and I'm not an immigrant, and I'm not a government worker,
You're putting
Scott,
one on top of
yourself.
You're putting one on top of the other.
My mother is a Democrat. She's not an immigrant. She's not a government worker.
This is what your party relies on, and you've closed shop on government in Washington, D.C., and eventually they're going to get tired of it. There is no reason this government could not be left open.
Americans who voted for.
What gets under my skin is how offended he suddenly becomes when someone suggests honesty, as if that's some outrageous accusation. This is a guy whose entire TV persona is built on spinning narratives. He pops up on Caitlin Collins' show, he's constantly on Abby Phillip's panel, and every appearance follows the same pattern: deflect, distort, and dress it up with confidence. He pretends to be shocked when challenged, yet he knows perfectly well that the claim about Trump wanting bipartisan cooperation is false, because Trump has been openly telling Republicans not to work with Democrats. That's why his outrage feels so theatrical. The indignation is an act. The smirk, the posture, the tone, it's all performance. And that's exactly why I see him as one of the most misleading voices regularly given airtime. I genuinely cannot stand watching him.
Kamala Harris were all immigrants?
No, I'm saying
that's not true.
I'm saying I'm listening to Democratic arguments about most policy issues, and I'm looking at Democratic energy, and it mostly has to do with things to do with immigrants, illegal and some legal, and things to do with government bureaucrats. And right now, you're putting one of your constituencies out of business.
Can I say one thing, which is that people cannot get these subsidies
Sure
that we're
they can.
talking about?
Sure they can.
No, they can't.
No,
Sure
they
they
can't.
can.
It's federal law, Scott,
who do you think? Who do you think pays when they go to the emergency room? It's the Medicaid
Scott,
emergency
going
program.
to the emergency room is not getting an Obamacare subsidy.
You guys are conflating. You guys are conflating
No,
these
we're not,
issues.
Scott.
You're conflating these
and
issues.
You're being dishonest with
the
the American
subsidies are a
people about
separate
this,
issue. The
because you know
Medicaid
it's
program
unpopular.
cuts are a different thing.
Right, but I'm talking about
Medicaid
subsidies.
and the Obamacare stuff are two different issues. And I said
Correct.
the subsidies may get negotiated over time, but what Democrats want to do is roll back what the Republican Medicaid reforms were. They want, look, I don't understand why everybody's so mad. For time immemorial, Democrats have argued that it's good. It's good for illegal immigrants to get Medicaid. Every candidate for president in 2020 raised their hand for it. In the big, beautiful bill debate, they argued it was good policy. I can't believe there's an about-face in the Democratic Party on it today.
Hold on. I got a question for Karen, but Scott, I will say, people who are in the country illegally also can't get Medicaid. That's
Sure they can.
federal law.
Sure they can.
They can't get Medicaid.
They also
Medicare,
can't register to vote. They also can't register to vote, but we just found one in Maryland who was running the Des Moines school system.
Oh my God, one!
I mean, I'm telling you, you guys say these things can't happen, and then they happen.
Scott, but I'm just saying it's federal law. And
you can run cover. You can run cover for it if you want, but they do get federal tax money. They get federal tax money. Ask Jake; he had it on today.
I'm just saying it's against federal law to do that.
It is.
Good luck
Karen,
with it.
can I ask you, because one thing that we've heard from Democrats over the last several months is that the president's consolidation of power is dangerous. That's how Democrats have framed this. But now what House Speaker Mike Johnson, the point he was making here last night, is that Democrats have handed the president more power by shutting the government down, because now they're canceling and stopping these contracts and saying they're going to fire a bunch of federal workers during this period. Was that a mistake in your view?
Well, but again, the president, it's a choice that the president can make. I mean, governing is all about choices, right? The leader of the country can say, hey, I'm going to protect tax cuts for billionaires, or I'm going to make sure over 20 million American families can get the subsidies they need to afford their health care and not see it double. And by the way, Russell Vought is not someone who, this government is, we know they're going to doge their way through the rest of the federal government anyway. I don't think there's much credibility in saying, hey, we're going to use this to lay people off. I mean, I just want to consider, it's a different pot of money, but think about the optics. The White House confirmed to Fox News today that the construction of the Grand Ballroom will continue while they are talking about laying people off and potentially firing people. That is outrageous. If you're serious about negotiating, as the senator said, you don't do things like that. You say, we are going to bring everybody to the table. Let's see what we can get done. And Scott, part of the reason this issue around the ACA credits, as the senator, I think, pointed out, there's not a lot of credibility here. So let's act like adults. Let's come to the table and stop making threats about, we're going to fire these people and we're going to, you know what, you're the leader. It's your job to bring people together.
To me, Scott Jennings perfectly represents the MAGA media persona. It's not just what he says, it's how he carries himself. The constant smirk, the exaggerated facial reactions, the deliberate eye contact with the camera, even when he's supposed to be engaging with the panel. You see it all the time on Abby Phillip's show. His head turned one way, but his eyes snapping straight to the lens so he can perform for the audience at home. None of it feels accidental. It's calculated, and it's meant to project confidence while pushing a narrative. That same pattern shows up in the talking points. MAGA figures, including Jennings, keep repeating the claim that undocumented immigrants are getting Medicaid. They know that's misleading, and what they're referring to is a decades-old policy that allows hospitals to be reimbursed for emergency care when someone can't pay, not a benefit handed directly to undocumented people. That distinction matters, and they intentionally blur it because the confusion works in their favor. The same strategy applies to claims about voter fraud. One isolated anecdote gets treated like proof of a systemic problem, even though large-scale investigations covering billions of ballots have consistently found virtually no fraud. When these inquiries don't deliver the outcome MAGA wants, they quietly disappear. The narrative collapses under scrutiny, so it's abandoned. This is why I view Scott Jennings as a textbook propagandist. His role isn't to clarify or inform, it's to repeat talking points, manufacture outrage, and move on before facts catch up. That's what this performance was, and that's why I'm not buying it. Now I want to hear from you. Do you think Karen Finney was right to push back the way she did? Or do you agree with Jennings's framing? Drop your thoughts in the comments, hit like, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.